Greetings. This is an important planetary forecast that highlight the total lunar eclipse, 6 geocentric planetary conjunctions, the Jupiter station from retrograde, and the Venus twin conjunctions of both Neptune and Saturn, all taking place in the month of March of 2026. It must be noted that the period from March 6 through 10 will be the main feature and highlight for the month. Venus will conjoin Neptune on March 7 at 1 degree 16 minutes Aries. The next day Mercury will conjoin the Sun while trining Jupiter, and then on March 9 Venus will conjoin Saturn at 2 degrees Aries. Jupiter will slow down from retrograde and station direct on March 11, marking this 5-day period with an amazing series of planetary geometries, should coincide with a significant to major earthquake and a potential magnitude of greater than 7.5. On Tuesday, March 3rd, Earth will pass directly between Sun and the Moon, casting its shadow onto the Moon's surface and causing a total lunar eclipse, often called a blood moon because the Moon turns a deep red hue during totality. The entire sequence from beginning of the penumbral shadow to its end spans roughly 5.5 hours. This eclipse will be widely visible across North America, Asia, Australia and much of the Pacific Ocean region. Large population centres in these areas will see the entire total phase, which is not always the case with lunar eclipses. In contrast, much of Europe and Africa will miss the totality due to daylight or moonset. We're now looking at the important astronomical events for the month. As mentioned, the total lunar eclipse occurs on March 3rd. March 7th, we get Mercury reaching inferior conjunction, a powerful planetary alignment, and on the 10th, the Moon will reach apogee. A very significant planetary alignment, Mercury conjoins Mars at mid-month on March 15th. Then we get Neptune conjoining the Sun on the 22nd, and on the same day we get the lunar perigee. Saturn will conjoin the Sun on the 25th, Mars will reach perihelion the following day, and the Moon-Jupiter conjunction also on that same day. We're now looking at the important planetary alignments for March, and we get 6 geocentric planetary conjunctions. Venus will conjoin Neptune, Sun will conjoin Mercury, and Venus will conjoin Saturn from March 7 through 8, a powerful time frame where we should have some major earthquake activity. Mid-month, as mentioned, Mercury will conjoin Mars, and on the 22nd, Sun will conjoin Neptune, and on the 25th, Sun will conjoin Saturn. We're now focusing on the important Moon-Jupiter conjunction, which takes place on March 26th. Now, the important aspect with the Moon-Jupiter conjunction, it does tie into some very strong earthquake events within a few days, and importantly, we get 2 Drake Passage earthquakes in 2025 on the Moon-Jupiter conjunctions, or within 51 hours. So we may get something similar again in March, another quake for Drake Passage potentially. And importantly, the Moon-Jupiter conjunction will be enhanced not only by the Sun-Neptune conjunction on the 25th, but also Mars will be reaching perihelion on the same day, the Moon-Jupiter conjunction. We're now looking at the important lunar perigee information. The lunar perigee takes place on March 22nd, and it will be the Moon's 11th closest approach to the Earth for the year, so its lunar influence will be extremely weak. And it will be weak, or an anti-supermoon phase in February and also in March. The supermoons will be taking place in May, June and December of this year, so the lunar influence will be quite weak until we move into the month of May. We're now looking at the important lunar declinations which are taking place on the 11th and 25th of March. Importantly, we have an interesting symmetry across the Pacific. The western side of the Pacific has a very strong resonance around March 11. Note the areas of interest around the Kamchatka through to the Japan region, down towards the Mariana Islands, Papua New Guinea and into the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand and south of New Zealand, which is quite interesting. While the second lunar declination on the 25th has a very strong profile and focus over Alaska, stretching down towards Hawaii and also the Pacific Antarctic Ridge. Now going to be talking about Comet 3i Atlas, as it's scheduled to make a very close encounter with Jupiter, passing within approximately 61 million kilometres of the planet on March 16. This very rare event will see Comet 3i Atlas enter the outer edge of Jupiter's Hill sphere and will be the second planet that will have close shaves. The other planet was Mars. Interstellar Comet 3i Atlas made a close approach to Mars on October 3rd of 2025, passing within 29 million kilometres. This is a fascinating geometry which are hypersymmetric of time itself. Comet 3i Atlas presents a symmetry with both Mars and Jupiter that does more than capture astronomical interest. It challenges how we understand time and space themselves. Its close approach to Mars in October and Jupiter upcoming in March not only merely are rare celestial events, they form a pattern that appears to stretch across time rather than move neatly through it. The comet's precise trajectory and velocity brings it into striking proximity with both planets, yet the story doesn't end there. In the month of November of 2026, Mars and Jupiter will make a powerful conjunction, and as they do so, they perfectly align with the Moon's south node. So this is an amazing symmetry, almost an echo of the comet's earlier path in 2025 into 2026. This sequence feels less like a straight line of cause and effect and more like a geometric design unfolding across multiple moments at once. So the comet's arrival in 2025 might not just be an isolated incident passing through our solar system, but part of a much larger pattern that loops, resonates and refracts through planetary motion. Rather than viewing these alignments as disconnected points on a timeline, perhaps they invite us to reconsider time itself, not as a straight arrow, but as a multi-dimensional structure in which events correspond across space and moments in ways we are only beginning to perceive. What November 2026 ultimately brings remains unknown, but the configuration urges us to question whether we are witnessing a coincidence or a deeper architecture woven into the fabric of time and space. We have Jupiter coming back from its retrograde stationing and then turning direct motion, and this occurs on March 10. Now, this is an important time frame as it occurs just after the series of planetary connections involving Venus, Neptune and Saturn, as well as the Earth-Mercury-Sun planetary alignment. We get the Jupiter station, which is an important time frame as it made a station late in 2025, marking a future area that could see a very large earthquake in the month of March of 2026. Here is an Astro-Carto-Graphy chart of the Jupiter station in November 11 of 2025, and note its geolocation on the Earth. The overhead position of the station of Jupiter is right across the Drake Passage region, in between a series of 3 strong earthquakes that occurred in 2025. Now, this station occurred in November, which will imply that there is another earthquake to come for the region based on the Jupiter station alone. Jupiter went retrograde in November of 2025, and this is a snapshot of where Jupiter will be on March 10 of 2026. As it stations and then turns direct motion, which will be moving from left to right, back across the Drake Passage and the Scotia Sea. And now the earthquake forecast covering the March time frame 2026, with the most likely location to see a strong and significant earthquake would be the Drake Passage region for another event. Now, it's already seen 3 strong earthquakes in 2025, magnitude 7.4, 7.5 and 7.6, and it could be another one to come for the region based on the Jupiter station that I've just previously mentioned. Now, in the month of November of 2025, I made an official warning for Drake Passage and the New Zealand region, and we got a major quake in a specified time frame, and this forecast proved to be quite accurate. Now, I found a close symmetry and resonance along with a perfect solar eclipse termination fingerprint that isolated these regions. We actually have something very similar again unfolding in March of 2026. So I'm concerned of a major quake coming, and potentially could be even larger than what we had in 2025. Now, looking back at the major earthquakes across Drake Passage in 2025, we had a 7.4 magnitude earthquake on May 2nd. We can just see it just south of South America. So this was a fairly significant earthquake. And if we note that the exact time of this event, we have Venus and Neptune in conjunction at the time of this earthquake event, which caught my attention. We're now looking at the third earthquake, and the larger earthquake of them all was the 7.7 magnitude earthquake on October 10. This earthquake also had an interesting symmetry with both Venus and Neptune. Previously it was their conjunction, and in October it was their opposition. We're now looking at the exact position of Neptune, as it may reveal a further earthquake to come for the region based on the position of Neptune itself. Now, the first earthquake on May 2nd of 2025, we see a 7.4 magnitude, but importantly the position of Neptune was at 1 degree Aries. It then went back retrograde and it hit that same 1 degree node, and we get the second earthquake on August 22nd, magnitude 7.5. Now, what's fascinating is that as we are moving into March of 2026, Neptune will again move into that 1 degree Aries point, and we could see another major quake to come. Now, just bringing it home, we get the Venus-Neptune conjunction for the first earthquake in Drake Passage, the Venus-Neptune opposition for the third earthquake in Drake Passage, and the period in March 8 of 2026, we get another Venus-Neptune conjunction, but importantly, they will both be at 1 degree Aries, just as it was with the first earthquake that struck in Drake Passage on May 2nd. Not only do we have a direct correlation with Neptune and Venus for the Drake Passage, but Venus and Saturn will also share an interesting correlation as well. The first and third earthquakes shared the same symmetry, First, the conjunction for the first earthquake on May 2nd, and the third earthquake on October 10 had the opposition between Venus and Saturn. So the period from March 7 through 9, we have this interesting correlation where Venus, Saturn and Neptune will be sharing another symmetry and conjunction as Venus merges in between both Neptune and Saturn in March. In conclusion, I do feel that there is another strong quake coming. It may be even larger than the October quake. So the March time frame through 7 and 9 is highly significant as it involves Venus, Neptune and Venus, Saturn. And it does culminate and bring together the solar eclipse information that I was expecting quakes in the region. We did get that in 2025, but also we have a Jupiter station further implying another quake to come for the region. Now this quake could be larger than 7.5 magnitude, so definitely something to watch and keep note of. But this is a definite time frame to watch. The period from March 6 through 11 could be highly explosive in terms of earthquake events. We're now looking back at a resonance through the solar eclipse using astrocartography, and a focus on a very strong resonance point across the region of Pakistan, stretching northward to Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. And this is due to the annual solar eclipse of October of 2024 having a very strong echo through the month of March. So this will be something to watch towards the second half of the month, and this could be a very strong earthquake and potentially very shallow. We're going to be talking about the New Zealand region for March of 2026. Now we do have some strong resonators that will be factoring in across the North Island, New Zealand, that I have been concerned with. As mentioned previously, I did forecast the New Zealand region and the Drake Passage region for a possible large earthquake in October of 2025. So this time frame could actually represent a strong event for the New Zealand region if there's no juice left in the tank, so to speak, in terms of earthquake energy to release across Drake Passage. Now we'll make a special presentation regarding a future earthquake potential for the New Zealand region with greater detail in the coming weeks, as this will have a little bit more information about what to expect for the New Zealand region. Now we do have the Venus-Neptune connection to worry about, but also Venus and Saturn not only share an interesting symmetry with a pair of conjunctions across the region, but also stations across the region as well. Now Mercury makes a station in late February 2026 across the Christchurch region, if that wasn't enough. But I'm concerned more about the Venus station and Saturn stations of 2025, which should be an echo of the future event to come. Now initially I was concerned that a major quake could be on the way for the New Zealand region based on the Earth-Mercury-Sun planetary alignment squeezed in between very powerful planetary movements of Venus in between both Neptune and Saturn. Now the fortunate thing is that we have very weak perigees on either side of the Earth-Mercury-Sun planetary alignment, so this could be a fairly interesting area of time for the New Zealand region. There could be some strong shakes around 5 magnitude around this period, but hopefully we don't get anything too large. But this is definitely a worry the month of March, as there is a large quake coming, and potentially it could be across the Drake Passage region, but we need to be closely monitoring New Zealand as well. It must be mentioned that all templates used in this video are in the earthsignals.com global earthquake newsletter, which can be picked up at earthsignals.com, and it contains a lot more information than what's shared in this video. I've now moved over from the solarwatcher.net and quakewatcher.com websites and moved them into earthsignals.com. This brand new website is a fantastic creation by a web developer who's located in New Zealand, and I highly recommend anyone who needs a website to look at his services. I will leave his link in the description box for those interested, and I welcome everyone to go to the earthsignals.com website and have a look at what's going on. I will be offering free services in the month of March for those who register, so keep a note of that. The website has a real-time activity dashboard. It also has extra content for members and subscribers, as well as global website newsletters and loads of content outside of YouTube, so I highly recommend people just go in and check that out. And that concludes this planetary forecast video covering the March 6 through 11 time frame for a major earthquake event potentially greater than 7.5 magnitude. For more information, please visit earthsignals.com, and thanks for watching.